So over my career, I've helped create and scale 5 different offers that have gone on to do 8 figures or more. And so I wanted to put together a video that walked you through my process for doing that, kind of my checklist for launching 8 figure offers, so to speak. Because I've learned a lot along the way, and there's a lot of things that people miss and a lot of misconceptions that people have about what it takes to scale an offer properly. So that's what I'm going to share with you in this video. Before we dive into it, if you don't know me already, my name is Jeremy Reeves. I'm the founder of ScaleAdvisors.com, and I'm the author of the #1 best-selling book, The Scalable Profit Model, where I show you how to scale faster with more profit, more cash flow, and less stress. It's a great book. Check it out if you haven't already. Otherwise, let's get into it, right? So before I actually walk into the step-by-step part of this, right? Let's get into like why most launches die early, so to speak. They don't really make it, right? And the biggest thing is years ago it was easier to launch an offer because there was less competition, and it was easier to make the economics of the offer work because just the competition to product ratio was better. Things were cheaper, acquisition costs were lower, attention was higher, so there was a higher AOV, there's more novelty in the space, so again there's a higher AOV, there's a higher LTV, all those sorts of things. But now that there's so much competition in D2C and really every other industry, and it's just going to continue to increase, especially now with AI. It's making it harder for things to work. So you basically, the gist is you have to have more of your shit together than you used to have. All right. And so I wanted to walk through what I do because I think that'll help. All right. So the first thing as you're going through all this is you need to, if you're not familiar with my scalable offer score, you need to have that in place first. And I'm actually in the process right now. It's June 1st as I'm filming this, and I'm actually in the process now of building an app around my scalable offer score because it's a fantastic framework. But I wanted to build something where people can just put in their funnel information, and it actually like critiques their sales page, everything based around my scalable offer score. Because that score, those 10 components that make it up, which I'll get into in a sec, came from me scaling all these offers to 8 figures, and I was looking at all the commonalities of what each one had, right? And so that's the first thing that you start with as you're building the offer, as you're creating the product, as you're thinking through the sales process, the sales journey that people are going to have once they buy the product, as you're writing your copy for the product and building your ads. You have to make sure that it gets a really high score on the scalable offer score. All right. So if you're not familiar with what that is, it's basically 10 components that make up what would be a scalable offer. And so you just go through them one by one and you rate yourself. And then it shows you where you're weak, where you're strong, that sort of thing, right? So the components of that are pain severity. So, like, what you're selling, does it solve a deep, visceral, painful pain point for them, right? Or is it something? Is it a need to have versus a want to have, essentially? The second one is market timing. So your product, where it fits in your market, how is the timing of that product? All right. Are you riding a wave? Are you at the very front of that wave? Are you at the very top of that wave? Has that wave already crashed? Where is the momentum for whatever your product is versus where the market is? So a really good example of this is I sold a product. One of the 8 figure offers actually was called Cacao Bliss, and this was just about 10 years ago now. And we launched at it, did $8 million in the first year alone, just in the first 12 months, not a run rate or any crazy nonsense, like that. It was just like revenue collected in the first 12 months was just under $8 million for that. And that was a cacao product, a raw cacao product. When we launched that, one of the reasons that did so well was because it was a novel product in the market, right? There was hot chocolate, but there was only like store bought, very mass produced hot chocolate. Raw cacao at that point in time was not really being used for doing like a healthy hot chocolate. All right. So that was the angle that we went for. It was like, this healthy hot chocolate helps heal you and improves your mood and your energy and blah 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 blah. And what we now, and of course there are a lot of variations across the years, but that was the one that we at least started with, was like healthy hot chocolate. All right. Because we figured women, especially, love chocolate. Women want to be healthy. Women are having, our target market at that time was like women, like middle aged women, pretty much. And so that market, right? Most women and people in general love chocolate. They also have weight issues. They also have hormonal issues. They also have energy issues and sleeping issues. And really, really good raw cacao, it helps with all those things. It's actually, just quick tangent on this. It's actually has more on the ORAC scale, which measures antioxidants. It's higher than it's like one of the highest in the entire world, actually. But there are like once you heat it, it kills off a lot of the polyphenols and the phytonutrients and all the stuff that's inside it. Right, it kills a lot of that off. So all the mass production of it actually kills most of the benefits from it. So that was our pitch, right? Anyway, so that was really good market timing. The next one is the competitive landscape. So what you want in your market, you want to be in a market that has competition, but because that proves that there's demand for what you sell. But there's not so much competition that you're in a red ocean where you're just competing and you're never going to get traction. You want to be in a market that has competition, but also has an opening that you can kind of slot yourself into and be more valuable, bring something novel and unique to the market. And that's kind of how you slide in. You have a unique, whether that's a unique product, a unique message, unique branding, a unique story, whatever that is, you need some sort of uniqueness. It could be even you. If you're the main kind of spokesperson, your uniqueness could be you. It could be a person. All right. It could be proof. Let's say that you were, I don't know, number one bestselling author, or your product is used by celebrities, or whatever it is, right? Whatever that unique factor, that unique it factor is that you have, you need to be able to have it differentiated from the market. The fourth one is perceived value, right? So we've heard that term a million times, right? It's just perceived value, and this does not mean, by the way, the actual value of the product. Perceived value and value are actually very different things because it's what they perceive. So, very extreme example of this. Let's just say that you had a shot that you just popped in your arm one time, and we'll just say it was a peptide, because peptides are huge anymore. So you create a new peptide that you put it in your arm one time. It's guaranteed to work. It's going to help you get to you. Maybe you plug in exactly what you look like now. You give it images of exactly what you want to look like in terms of your hair, in terms of your facial complexion, your muscle build, your fat, all the things. And you just upload it, and then maybe we'll probably have this in like 10 years. All right, you upload it and it creates a custom peptide for you, and you give yourself a jab one time, and it immediately, instantly, like in 1 second, boom, you are exactly where you want to be. It erases all pain from your body. It injects some nanobots into your body, fixes all your aches and pains. You can function perfectly. You can jump perfectly. You're stronger. You can hold your breath longer. You can have sex longer. You can do anything you want. All the things are built into this, like we'll just call it a nanopeptide, right? That's your product. How awesome of a product would that be, by the way? Um, but on your marketing page, you just say, take this nanopeptide and you'll feel better tomorrow. Now, there's a very big difference between the value of that product and the perceived value. All right. Obviously, that's a very extreme example, but I just want to show that point. We all have a variance between the actual value our product creates and the perceived value. And that variance comes from your ability to market. All right. That's where you need really good marketers to help you write the copy, to help you come up with the offer, to help you explain the offer, explain why it's different, explain the benefits, explain the outcomes that they can expect, explain why it's going to get better results than other methods in the market, explain, how it's easier, faster, better, yada, 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 yada. All the things that go into marketing increases your perceived value. Next, we have outcome speed. That is just simply how fast you get the outcome. So you say, like in my example, right? You pop it in your arm once, boom, instant outcome. That is going to increase your conversion strength. It's going to increase your perceived value. It's going to sell more, right? Versus you do that but it takes a year to work. All right, one of them is going to work. It's going to sell a lot better than the other one. Obviously, people want faster speed. That's why GLP-1 is one of the reasons GLP-1s work so well right now. That's why they're turning into a billion and maybe even $1 trillion industry, because they have all these things in place. All right. Ease of results is the next one. So how easy can you make it for people to get the result? And I'll kind of fly through the rest of these because I took a while on the other ones. Certainty of results. So how certain are they of getting the result that you're offering? So whatever your promise is to them, how certain are they that your product will actually get them that result, right? The next one is offer uniqueness. So how differentiated is your product compared to other products in the market? The next one is economic scalability. So, what do your economics look like? What is your conversion rate? What is your average order value? What how much? What does your LTV to CAC ratio look like? How much are you increasing that day one AOV and then turning that into more contribution margin dollars collected over what period of time? Right. So, what do your economics look like? And then finally is ascension potential, and that. This is just for front end products, typically, maybe in like an upsell, and I mean maybe even the back end, but typically I built this for front end products. So ascension potential is essentially when they buy the product, what is the likelihood, or how effective is it at getting that customer to spend more with you over time? All right. So if you sell somebody a pencil, that's going to have very low ascension potential because they're going to buy the pencil, they're going to use the pencil. They might have to reorder once every couple of years, right? There's not a good reordering system. There's not. It's not going to be good at cross-selling them into other products. You're not going to be able to increase the quantity. I mean, maybe you could if you're selling to like schools or something and they need a lot of pencils, but like overall, the ascension potential of a pencil is very low versus something like a supplement. That could be a really good ascension path. You're going to get them to reorder it, or some kind of consumable, right? Like a protein powder or collagen or something like that. We'll go with the protein powder. Protein powder, if they like it, they're going to use it every day. They're going to reorder. All right. They're going to buy in bigger quantities. Once they know they like it, you can then say, hey, you're on subscription. We know that you love it. Why don't you buy 6? Why don't you buy 12? We'll give you a full year's pass. Plus, we'll give you coaching, et cetera, et cetera. You can create a bigger ascension path because you can combine it with bundle it with coaching or with whatever it is to do bigger packages. There's a lot more ascension potential with that product, right? So that's the second step, is going through making sure that your scalable offer score is as high as possible. The third one is knowing your numbers before you spend the money, right? So I talk about the allowable acquisition cost, which is essentially pick a time frame that you're willing to take to break even on your customers. Let's just say that's 30 days. All right. And so you say it's basically the contribution margin created within 30 days minus your acquisition costs and overhead. All right. So, well, yeah. So minus, not acquisition cost. Sorry, I said that wrong. So it's contribution margin over a given time frame minus your overhead. That gives you what you're allowed to spend, right? So if you collect $100 in contribution margin over the first 30 days, and you have a $25 overhead per customer, that means that your allowable acquisition cost is $75. All right, pretty simple. The problem is with that number and the way that I calculate it is it's typically better for existing products because you already know how much contribution margin is collected within given timeframes, or at least you should if you're tracking all the right data. If you're starting out, I've never really found an exact science for this. I typically am trying to get somewhere in the range of about 75% ROAS on a CM-ROAS basis, which essentially means um, if you're shooting to collect to basically liquidate 75% of your ad spend on day one, right? But on a contribution margin adjusted basis. So if you in this example, let's just say that you have a 50% contribution margin, you would need to generate $1.50 in revenue for every dollar spent, in order, because then after contribution margin, you're now at 75% ROAS, right? So think about it in terms of those. The reason that I like 75 is because, assuming that you have at least some kind of back end, you'll probably eventually be able to make that back. All right. Adding an extra 25%, like bridging the gap between that 75% and the 100%, so you're back at break even, typically isn't too hard to do. All right. Again, assuming that you have a decent product, people are reordering, maybe you have one or two other products, or at least, a couple products, so that people are buying on the back end. You can do some promotions, whatever. Maybe you have a call center, you have Amazon, there's some spillover into those things. Maybe you have people that are coming through, you have like a search campaign, right? There's a spillover effect that a lot of attribution tools aren't really tracking. So if you're 75% CM-ROAS, and you have some of these spillover things, that's why I always talk about hidden profit centers, or adding profit centers, because if you have this stuff in place, there's a certain percentage. I've found it to be somewhere in the 20 to 25% range, depending on the business, where you're getting that revenue. And it's basically the people that see your product, but then buy on a different channel that's not tracked. All right. Amazon is a perfect one for D2C, because there's a good percentage of people that are coming to your Shopify store or your page, or your whatever page that you have that you're sending people to, and they're saying, "Oh, that's interesting. I'm going to look them up on Amazon," because they trust Amazon. And even if it's more expensive, they get free shipping. They know they can return it, and it's an easy process. Whatever the case is, there's a certain percentage of people that are willing to do that. All right. And so that, I call that the spillover effect. So there's going to be a certain number of people. And then if you start layering in your LTV, the back end, you're going to eventually break even. So the rule of thumb for me, at least, is I'm generally shooting for around 75% CM-ROAS. So you would have to basically just run the traffic and just see what your numbers are. And then you start to backtrack and reverse engineer and figure out what they need to be. All right. Now, the fourth step here is tracking. All right. So important to set up your tracking. First of all, you need some sort of tracking attribution. All right. Whether that's something like Triple Whale or Hyros, or UTMs, or some sort of custom data that you're doing, whatever it is, you need some sort of tracking attribution so you can track people across channels, and you have preferably some sort of data dashboard where everything's going into. You can then look at all of your stats broken down by traffic channel, by first purchase, by geography, by time of day, all the things, right? The second part of this is you need to be able to track every step of the sales process. So a lot of people will look and they'll just say, "Oh, my EPC is X." And it's like, okay, but there's like 100 things that are not 100 things. There's a couple things that are making up that overall EPC, or same thing with conversion rate. There's several things that are making up that conversion rate number. All right. So you have to track everything. So you have to start on your ad. Look at the click-through rates, right? That's the primary one for ads, because it shows relevance. If your ads have a low click-through rate, that's going to make your cost per click higher, right? If it has a really good CTR, that's going to lower your CPMs and your cost per click and all that stuff, all the metrics that actually make, that determine whether it's successful or not. And it just shows relevance to the audience. All right. Then after they click the ad, well, then there's the click-through rate. If you have an advertorial, there's a click-through rate between the advertorial and your landing page. On the landing page, there's your add to cart. You can even do scroll rate. If you're doing a VSL, you can do your drop off rate with the VSL. So like how many people make it through the first 30 seconds. Let's start there and optimize that because once they're at 30 seconds, they're much more likely to stay for the first 10 minutes. And once they hit 10 minutes, they're much more likely to stay for the rest of the video and then buy, etc. Right? You can track the number of people who add to cart. Yeah, and then you can track your AOV. You can track time on page, right? Like whatever this is, even before add to carts, you can track the number of people who see the offer on the page if your offer is lower on the page, right? There's all these individual little mini steps, and well, actually, let's keep going. So on the checkout, there's the conversion rate, of course, on the checkout. There's also like your order bump. If you have order bumps on your checkout, there's the order bump take rate. For upsells, you can track each individual upsell. You can track the average order value on each upsell, the conversion rate on each upsell, the drop off rate between upsells. Right. So there's there's a lot of these individual steps, and a lot of people aren't tracking them like that. They're just looking at the overall number and then saying, "Oh, well, how do we improve that?" And it's like, "Well, I don't know. Okay, your conversion rate's low. Okay, well, is it like why is that? Is it because we're sending incongruent people to the page? So you'd be looking at your ads. Like how congruent is the ad to the conversion page or to the landing page? You could be looking at your add to carts. How many? Well, oh, wow, we have a lot of add to carts, but then, oh my God, once they get to the checkout page, it's only converting at 5%. Well, okay, now that's the constraint. That's clearly the constraint that's causing the rest downstream to not do well. All right. So the point of all this is to set it up so that you're looking at each individual step, each tiny little click and decision that a customer is making that takes them through your process. You want to be tracking all that because if you have all that information, that's going to show you what each individual step is doing well and what each individual step is not doing well. And when you know that, you know the constraints. And if you listen to my content, you know that I'm a big believer that business is all about just finding a constraint, fixing the constraint, and repeating. That is, if you just break business down to it, that's pretty much what business is on a day-to-day basis, is just find the constraint that's holding you back from what you're trying to do, remove it so that it can flow more freely, whether that's revenue or profit or whatever it is, and then find the next one. And then fix that, and then find the next one, and then fix that, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. All right. And doing this like this allows you to do that. This is just one of the ways and one of the reasons that I talk about being data driven all the time. I think I talk about being data driven in like every single video that I have. And this is why, because when you have the data, you know what decisions to make and you're not guessing at things. All right. You're just saying the data says this, cool, we're going to do that. It's really that simple, all right? So make sure you're tracking this up. You can use, I like Mixpanel. Google Analytics used to be good years ago. That's an absolute train wreck now. I don't even have analytics installed on anything anymore. But I use Mixpanel, and because that's a lot easier, and that's basically like the new version of analytics, and it's free, right? It's very, very simple to set up. You can track it. You can do whatever you need to do. Now with AI, you can just say like, "Hey AI, go in there and set it up for me." If you're allowing it to like kind of take over your desktop, or you can just have it walk you through it. It's really simple. Um, the next thing, once you do that, is setting up the back end. All right. So let's just say that you're launching a new product. Obviously, before you know if a product's doing well, you don't want to put too much time. You're always trying to find that balance between like, do we do a quick and dirty version just to see what the results are, or do we fully nail this and spend more time on it, take longer to launch it, but have a higher chance of success when it launches? I used to be more on the side of let's just bang it out, test it. I am now much closer to, I would say I'm probably 80% to the side of fully dial that funnel in and then launch it for the reason that it's just gotten so much harder to make things work anymore. And if you're not putting your full effort into launches, there's a much higher percent chance that it's going to fail. All right. So I'm a big believer now in, especially now with AI, we can get a lot of things done faster and you can duplicate things faster and all that. Like, there's really no reason to not put your full effort into product launches anymore. At minimum, I would build, like, for when they come through your funnel, I would build at least a 30-day retention sequence for that product. All right, so you have at least 30 days of the customer ascension journey built in. A lot of people have nothing. This is also one of the services that I do, just so you know. A lot of times sometimes I do this on a performance only basis, depends on what you have in place and the type of business you're at, but I can do this all for you where it's an automated sequence where you're essentially the goal is to maximize the contribution margin that you collect from each customer that you get through the door. Because a lot of people will they're focused so much on the front end, just getting customers in, that then they come in and then nothing happens after. And they're just kind of hoping on a wing and a prayer that they can increase their LTV over time, just getting them just because they have a good product. But it's like, well, that's not really gonna that doesn't cut it anymore. You know, it's just not good enough anymore because there's so much competition. It's gotten harder in the DTC space. There's so many things working against you that you need to have more in place now for things to work. All right. And the important thing with this is, and this comes back to the scalable offer score, when you're launching these products, you need to be launching products that have a good ascension path. And you're not just getting that first time sale like the pencil, but you're getting first time sales and then they come back in a couple weeks, or it leads to a really good cross sell, or leads to a really good upsell, or a high ticket coaching program, or something like that. And you're not just launching products for that initial sale, but you're thinking through the lifetime of that product and who is buying that product and why they're buying the product and what else they need. These things should be planned out in advance so that when you get a product and it's showing you all the signs that it's doing well, you already have the plan and boom, you can just kind of flip the switch and go and launch those things, and then the numbers work much better and then you can scale it quickly. All right. So get that back end in place. It doesn't have to be perfect, but get something so that you can get those numbers once you start to launch this. All right. And then the final step, step 6, the final step is to launch and then optimize. All right. So the way that I like to do this is I like to take big swings in different directions. All right. So I'm generally launching a new product with somewhere around the range of about 10 different ads with various hooks. All right. So it's hook 1, hook 2, hook 3, hook 4, 5, 6 to 10. Right. Not tiny little variations, but big swings. We're going controversial over here. We're going topical here. We're going benefit driven here. We're going story driven here. We're going credibility or proof driven here. And you're seeing what is working. You're seeing, you're trying different unique mechanisms that you're talking about. You're trying just various hooks of why you're trying objection based versus outcome based, right? Trying a bunch of different things, throwing a bunch of hooks in the water to see what sticks, what catches that fish. And then once you get it, then you go deep on that and you do a bunch of variations of that hook that you found. All right. And again, we're thinking big swings, not small improvements. Uh, the next thing is just to set realistic expectations. I know this is a big one. I'm kind of talking to myself here. I've had so many big winners just right off the bat where we launched it and it was just bam, already a big winner, that it kind of spoiled me for a couple of years. I had, like, I think there was like 3 of them right in a row that I did that all became 8-figure offers. And so once I did that, I was, of course, my ego got involved and I was like, oh my God, everything that I touch is turning to gold. And, of course that luck eventually fades. It was a really good, most of it was because of the timing of the market, right? Which is why that's one of the most important things of all this is the market timing, because it's just so much easier to make things work when you're riding that tailwind versus pushing against a headwind. All right. So super important. So set realistic expectations. In most cases, the first thing that you test is not going to work the best. You're going to have to test different hooks. You're going to have to test different price points, different offer structures, different copy on your sales pages, different media formats, whether it's video versus text versus a hybrid. Try an advertorial versus straight to a checkout page. Like or not a checkout, a sales page, landing page, whatever you call it. There's a lot of different things, and a lot of times in the beginning, you just have to know that you're going to burn through some money while you're testing this stuff, and that's why all of this that I'm talking about is so important because that's going to shrink that timeline. All right, everyone's going to have a timeline of the time that you launch it until it hits. Doing all this stuff and getting it in all play, getting it in place correctly is going to shorten that timeline. All right, very important. Uh, and then once it works, and once you know it's hitting all your numbers, whatever your number is, for me, it's generally how quickly can we break even on a full basis. Like, what is the capital return velocity? Is my term for that, which is simply says when you're paying for inventory, and just say that's 8 weeks in advance, and then you have to pay for acquisition and take say that takes 30 days to break even on just on acquisition. You're already at the 3 months in the hole, and then you have another, let's just say 2 months of where the number of customers, the volume multiplied by the contribution margin dollars from each customer helps you pay off the overhead costs. Say that adds another 2 months. Now you're 5 months in the hole before you break even. So how do we shorten that so it's 2 months, 3 months, whatever it is? And then once it hits your number, whatever that is, then it's about enhancing it, optimizing it, expanding it. And you do that by whether it's multiple channels. You go from just Facebook to Facebook and Google. Apologies, I have something in my eye here. Um, to native, to TV, whatever, radio, whatever your preferred channels are. If you have a system where you start on one and then you take that and you move it over to a different channel, generally I'm not doing that until that product is doing like in the seven figures a year and you've kind of really optimized the whole thing for one channel and then you just move it to the next one. That's generally what I like to do. But whatever your process is, you're thinking about this like a tattoo. All right, I have a lot of tattoos, as you can see, and so I think of things in terms of tattoos sometimes. And so with this one, it's actually a really good thing because once you get the numbers to work, just to be viable, it doesn't have to be a grand slam, but once you get a single, you get a base hit, you're on base with that product, then you come through it just like you would with a tattoo sleeve, and you would do a second round, and that's adding depth. All right, it's adding layering, it's adding dimension, and you do that by adding new channels or testing new creatives, expanding on your creatives, testing new offers, building out that entire customer ascension process. I generally like to do it depending on how much revenue the product is doing. I'm generally looking to do that up to 90 days, where the entire process for the first 90 days is all automated, because then that way you know every single time you get a customer exactly how much they're worth. All right. And it gives you predictability, which then, if you have predictability and you know exactly how much contribution margin you're getting from each customer, then you know exactly how much you can spend. All right. So, very, very important. So, that is my process for creating and scaling eight-figure offers. Of course, there's no guarantees with all this, right? I can't guarantee you that you're going to launch an eight-figure offer, right? I think that's pretty much assumed here. But following this, and of course, there's more to it than this. This is just kind of the fundamentals of it. But following this process is going to get you there, and it's going to increase your win rate. It's also going to shorten the time frame that it happens. So instead of taking 6 months to get where you need to be, maybe by following this process, it only takes you 2 months. All right, and that means that those 4 months where you would have lost money, now you're in a profit zone instead of losing money for those 4 months, which means that you save a lot of money. Or add it, depending on how you look at it, right? So I hope this helps. If you want help actually building this out for your business, if you want help launching a new product, if you want help putting this system into your existing product suite so that we can go through and make every single customer worth more money to you, make you get your money back faster, improve your capital return velocity, improve all of your economics across the board, just reach out. You can go to scaleadvisors.com/services and see how I can help you there. Just go to contact me and shoot me an email. You can pick up the book. That's at scaleadvisors.com/book. Otherwise, just take this and run with it. If you enjoyed this, give this a like, share, subscribe to the channel if you want more content like this. Otherwise, I will see you in the next video. I hope you have a fantastic day.